Welcome to Upticks. I'm Jake Falcon, the founder of Falcon Wealth Advisors and your host for Upticks. Today is our 57th episode, Working with a CFP. All right, James, welcome back to the podcast / video now. We've upgraded things.
It's new.
Since you've been on here. So it's been a long time.
It has been.
And I know that you've been quite busy. And the theme of today's show is we wanted to go over with our audience what exactly it means to work with a certified financial planner. Just here recently, you've just completed all of the necessary coursework and passed the exam. So congrats.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Really excited about that. So I wanted to dive into the topics that you've been focused on, and that's why you haven't been on the show. You've been busy studying.
Been busy studying, yeah.
In fact,
spend the time for that.
In fact, how many hours did you study? I know we logged it.
We logged it. It was over 265 hours.
Wow. So thank you again for that dedication. Yeah. So James was busy during the day, servicing clients, making trades, and giving advice. And then the evenings, he would either study here in our beautiful office or go home. And I know you spent a lot of time on the weekends.
Yep, both here at the office and home or at the library, wherever I could manage to sneak in a few hours.
So what are you doing with all your free time now?
Housework. So I bought a house a couple years ago, and I've been spending a lot of time doing upgrades and keeping the lawn nice and mowed.
So things that have been ignored the last 260 hours have been back on the front.
Not necessarily ignored, but put to the back burner.
Gotcha.
A lot of things had to be. I had to place my time more into the studies to get that done, and then be able to advance into other things.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you for your dedication. And let's go. So I know the CFP board, they spend a lot of dollars advertising the CFP out there. So some of our clients may have heard of the designation before, and some people may have not. So again, it's basically a very in-depth curriculum that financial advisors will go through to get more knowledgeable when advising clients. Now, it's something that Corey and I haven't done. We focused our efforts on the Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor designation, which is really just focused on retirees, and the CFP is more broad. So maybe why don't we go over the topics where you've taken a deep dive into, so we can explain to our audience exactly what you've basically been trained on now.
Okay. The CFP board has 6 or 7 different categories that they look at in terms of overall financial planning, and those are the general principles. Some people talk about education planning as an independent course, but it can be part of others as well. Retirement planning, investment planning, taxes, estate planning, and insurance as well.
Okay, so let's pick some of those off. So the first one you mentioned is just a general CFP board overview. I don't think we need to bore our listeners with what that entails.
Yeah.
But what about, so education planning would be considered perhaps one. So what type of topics did you research or learn about as far as education planning?
So in terms of education planning, the big one are the qualified tuition payment plans, or the commonly known as a 529. That's probably the biggest one that they covered there, but they also talked about specific tax credits like the lifetime learning credit and the American Opportunities Credit. So those are some of the big ones out there that can really help people in terms of education planning, and then going into loans, because student loans is a big part of college, and where can students get the best loan, and where can parents get a loan for their kids as well.
Oh, fantastic. So if you're helping plan for your child or your grandchild, James has a little bit more knowledge behind just the traditional 529 and other lending opportunities. Another topic you mentioned was retirement planning. So, and I know we talk a lot about that on this show, but what did you learn, or not necessarily what you learned, because I know you learned a lot, but what did the course cover regarding retirement planning?
Everything from 401ks to simple IRAs to how to best serve a client that's retired or approaching retirement, how to strategize their retirement plans, rollovers, contributions, everything.
And I know you learned a lot about business owners, right? Because business owners have their own unique setup regarding the type of retirement plan they can establish, whether it be a SEP IRA, a 401k, a simple IRA. I mean, there's pension plans. There's all different.
Exactly. I was just about to mention that.
Right, and that's something that, again, Corey and I have touched on a little bit, but James has taken a lot deeper dive through the CFP coursework. So again, if you're a business owner and you're watching this, definitely James has more knowledge around more of a broader subset of retirement planning.
Right. I think my biggest thing that I learned from the retirement section was nowadays you really only hear about a 401k plan when you go to a corporation or you start a business or anything like that. That is like almost the industry standard now. But there are so many other plans that you can implement for your small business, for your big business, whatever you want, that can do exactly what a 401k does and more for you. So that was probably one of the biggest eye-opening experiences, because I really have only known about a 401k up until studying this.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, there are a lot of different options out there to set up your retirement planning. Very good. Another one that you mentioned is tax, right? Tax is a big one that we focused on here with our clients here lately, with Matt going through the Certified Tax Specialist designation. But what did the CFP kind of cover as an overview regarding taxes?
It was very all-encompassing. It was how to help keep taxes low, how to manage tax brackets, how to help with estate taxes, which also alluded into estate planning, but also going into capital gains and the taxes on different items that you have. So, for example, like your stocks versus physical gold or art, if you choose to sell those, what that would look like in terms of the tax implications on that.
Very good, yeah. So not only just the capital gains, but maybe property, real estate, art, and all that other.
Everything.
As part of it, all encompassing, again, financial plan. So what James is able to do now is he's able to, because of this background of this knowledge, he's able to look at a client situation with a much more larger tool bag, if you want to call it that, since he's learned a lot about a lot of different things that maybe we don't talk about on a day-to-day basis.
Right. There's taxes in terms of using, even though it sounds bad, selling things at a loss in your account to get a tax write-off.
Sure.
Is another way to help reduce taxes, as well as making your pre-tax contributions to lower your taxes now. So there are many different ways to juggle taxes, because it is so in-depth, and the IRS kind of makes it that in-depth and that confusing at times. So there are ways to alleviate the tax pressures that some people have.
Fantastic. So you also mentioned estate planning. So how did the course cover estate planning? What did it talk about?
I think estate planning for me myself was the hardest section, because I'm not an estate planning attorney, so having to learn the logistics behind everything was probably the hardest. But they really went into how to help set up your family or your heirs, whether that be kids or grandkids, and how to make sure that you're passing on your wealth and the things that you've worked hard for in terms of what you've saved, what you've earned throughout your life, and how to make sure that that passes efficiently and effectively to whomever it is that you want. Also through charitable giving, reducing estate taxes, all those things play into estate planning. And it's not just as simple as, really what I'm trying to say is you want to make sure that you have an estate plan. You don't want to just leave it up to your kids to make those ultimate decisions.
Yeah, and a lot of people would probably argue that it's just as important as having a financial plan. Perhaps in some circumstances more important.
And what's really interesting is the CFP board, and through the studies, estate planning is not something that you should just wait until you've retired to think about. It's something that you may not need a full-on estate plan, but it's definitely something that you should keep in mind, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. I know that sounds a little bit morbid, but you want to make sure that you have those things kind of lined up, whether that be through a will or a trust, or just, let alone writing beneficiaries on your account. Something as simple as that can help start that conversation.
Yeah, very good. And kind of going along with estate planning, I know life insurance was one of the major categories. So what did they teach you about life insurance?
I think their big one was don't get an annuity.
Really?
Yeah, really.
That's good to hear that they're teaching that, because again, we're at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we're really not big fans of annuities. They're typically very complex. They have a high fee structure, and they're very restrictive.
They said if you do recommend an annuity, there has to be very big documentation and reasoning behind it, because that's kind of a last resort for it. But the big thing about life insurance and health plans are going into the new HSAs or the health savings accounts that are out there, and then also getting into the things that you're offered through your employer,
right?
And that also can help that's where I can help small businesses that want to offer health insurance to their employees, choosing the right type of plan and being able to implement that, save people money, and provide ultimately health care and life insurance to people.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So it's not just life insurance, it's health insurance. Health savings accounts are a big one, right? I mean, didn't we talk about the other day that they can basically be considered triple tax exempt?
Right, I know, and they can be. It's really interesting. When you make contributions to an HSA or a health savings account, you get a tax deduction for that.
Right, so that's one.
That's one. The money within it can be invested, and it grows tax-free.
That's two.
That's two. And if it's when you take distributions from it to pay for medical expenses, the money comes out tax-free as well. So that's three.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, if your employer offers a HSA and you're not taking advantage of it, it's something you definitely might want to consider taking a look at. Or, like I said, James can sit down with you and look at it and explain it for you and see if it helps make your plan better.
Definitely. And with the rising cost of health care in here, it's definitely something that if you have it offered to you, you should definitely be taking advantage of it, because it can be beneficial to you in the long run.
Right, fantastic. And then the last one, I believe, is investments, right? So what did it cover as far as investments?
Really, it went very in depth in terms of not just stocks and bonds and how to invest those properly in terms of a good blend for an individual client, but it went into making sure that you're properly diversified amongst all investments. So using real estate and commodities, and some people have collectibles, whether that be cars or stamps. That's kind of the main one, but how do those play into a financial plan, and how can you use your investments to ultimately achieve your goals?
No, fantastic. Well, that's a lot of information, James.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle trying to remember everything, but putting in the time and the effort really allowed the kind of floodgates to open. And once you're able to link things up and see how they connect between the courses, it made things a lot easier.
Yeah. So how long was the test itself?
The test it's 2 3-hour sections. So it was a 7-hour day.
Wow.
That I went to take a test on a Tuesday, and started at 8 a.m. till 11, and then 11.
A break, I guess.
Yeah, you get a break of 40 minutes. And if you choose to take longer than 40 minutes, your time starts for your next test.
Interesting.
So you really want to make sure you're
ready to go.
You're ready to go. And so during that time, though, you can
study,
eat lunch. Exactly. Eat lunch, review any notes, and then from there it was about
12 to 3.
Yeah, 12 to 3.
Gotcha.
We'll round there a little bit, but that was about the time frame of the exam.
Well, fantastic. Well, thanks again for completing all of that coursework. I know there was a prep coursework that you had to do, basically like a college course before with a capstone project, and then now you've just completed the test. So we're really excited for you. So with Falcon Wealth Advisors, you currently work with just under 100 clients that you personally know the intricacies of their financial plans.
Right.
But for our clients that are tuning into this, I also wanted to make them aware that now that we have James, who's got a little bit more broader bench of knowledge than Corey and I do, he will be calling all of our clients to check in with them quarterly. Again, not to take over the relationship, but more just to say, hey, take a look at your situation. Do you have any questions for me about the market or your plan? Because again, James just has a different skill set than what I do. And that was the whole idea, is that we're looking to differentiate amongst the partners at Falcon Wealth Advisors so that we can just add more value to our clients' lives.
Right. And depending on your specific wants, goals, and needs, we can take a deep dive into certain criteria that, it would be a long time to talk about here on the video today. But during those times when I'm checking in with people, if you do have any questions that you might think are out there that doesn't really pertain to it, Feel free to ask, because I'm more than happy to go into any details, talk about whether it makes sense for you for your financial goals and everything along those lines.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you again. Congrats.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Really happy for you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's exciting to have someone who's passed the CFP exam on our team.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Very proud of you. So now to the fun part of our show, and you haven't participated in this yet.
I know, I'm a bit nervous.
Yeah, no, don't be. It's called the Bird of Prey Lightning Round, sponsored by Falcon Wealth Advisors. And basically what it consists of, James, there's 10 questions and 60 seconds that we try to get through here. So I'm just looking for your immediate thought here, okay? Whatever pops in your head. No one's going to hold you to whatever you say.
Okay.
There is no prize or penalty for getting right or wrong answers.
Okay.
So it's just something fun that we've been doing with our guests on our show, or I've been doing with our guests on our show. And so if it's okay with you, we're going to go ahead and start the Bird of Prey lightning round.
Do I get a Final Jeopardy category, or is it broad?
I'm just gonna be firing questions
All
at
right,
you.
let's go.
All right. So ready?
Yes.
Okay. We'll go ahead and start now. Favorite food?
I'd say chicken.
All right. Best vacation?
Barcelona,
Retire when?
when I can.
If not finance, what would you be doing?
I'm very passionate about cooking, so
You might be a chef somewhere?
Maybe a chef somewhere.
All right. Who's your favorite soccer player?
I would have to say currently or of all
Currently.
time.
We'll say currently.
Currently, I would have to say Paulo Dybala.
All right. What's more important, financial planning or investments?
Financial planning.
All right. The CFP guys.
Yeah, the plan ultimately dictates your investments.
That's true. Stocks or bonds?
Both.
Nice one. I haven't had somebody answer that one. Missouri or Kansas?
I was born and raised in Missouri, so I'd have to go with Missouri.
Okay. What's your favorite bird?
Falcon, of course.
All right. I added that one. That's new. And then the last question is, if you can, this doesn't have to be financially related, what is the number one piece of advice you would give someone?
Not financially
It can be anything. It can be any piece of advice.
I would say go for it. If you're not trying to strive for what you want or not putting in the time or effort, you're always going to look back at something and say, well, I wish I would have given it. I wish I would have tried a little harder or something along those lines. And you want to make sure when you're looking back at things, you didn't say those things. You want to say, I gave it my all and I tried my best.
Good for you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you that's a good advice. Thank you for participating in the Bird of Prey lightning round.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, no, it's not. You did really well. I like the stock and bond one. No one's answered that both.
Really?
That's the right answer, though, actually. So good for you.
Well,
I never
we're not
thought
going to
of it
hold
that way.
anyone
No,
else
we
to
won't
it.
hold anyone to it. Now, I do have, before we wrap up today's show, I do have one other question that I've asked a lot of our guests.
Okay.
And I want to know if you can think back to maybe when you first learned about money, maybe an early life lesson about money and what it was and who taught you it. If you remember, maybe when you were a kid, or maybe it was even in high school or college, or do you remember your first memory of money and who taught you?
I think my first biggest memory of money was my grandpa when I turned, I think it was 13.
Okay.
Gave me the annual benefit in terms of the gift exclusion. He gave me that annual benefit, and it was the first time that I actually had like a large lump sum of money to do something with, and I really had no idea what to do with it. And as a 13-year-old, it's like, oh, I have all this money, let's go spend it, and it's like, is that really the best thing for you? And I realized, college is on the horizon.
At 13, you were thinking that way?
Well, I had some help with my parents telling me about those things, but there were other costs that if I would save that money, and whether, for me, I didn't know much about stocks and bonds when I was 13, so it came to, a CD. I knew what that was, and it was like, well, if I put it in here and let it sit there, I can gain, I think back then it was maybe 4% or something like that.
Yeah.
And I decided to put the money in there instead of spending it and let that accumulate over time.
What did you end up using it for?
Mostly college.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So at 13, you had the discipline to let that money sit there for 5 years? Mm-hmm. And
Well, I had help from my parents telling me, like,
don't touch this.
Don't really touch this because it can grow faster if you don't touch it. But because my first thought was to go spend it
Sure.
and go buy some things that I'd wanted or put it to certain other things, but or save for a car, those type of things. But I knew that I looked to my parents for help, but the first getting the money from my grandpa was probably the biggest
No, that's awesome.
thing for me. And
you don't have any college loans, do you?
not anymore, no.
Fantastic.
Paid those off, yeah.
Yeah, so you're a young man, and if you'd have blown through that money, you'd probably still be paying some college debt.
Right, definitely.
Yeah. So awesome. That is a good lesson.
Thank
13, so 6th, 7th grade.
Yep.
Pretty good time to learn about money.
Yeah,
It's a
and
good lesson.
I wish I would have known more about stocks and bonds, because I think that was about the time when the Great Recession happened. So it would have been a great time to try to put that in the market and see what I could have gotten. But to each their own, right? Hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, that's
but
okay. You still paid for college.
I still paid for.
There's a lot
I
to
used
be
it for
said-
college
Lots to
mostly.
be said
Yeah.
with that. So awesome. Well, thank you for being back on the show. Our viewers can expect James will have you in from time to time now that you're
Perfect.
not studying all the time.
Right, exactly.
That maybe if you come across an interesting idea or something that we want to talk about as it relates to planning, we'll certainly bring you on. So thanks
Definitely,
again.
yeah.
Thanks for being on the show, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. As always, you can find us on all the various social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter at Jake Falcon CRPC. And James, do you prefer email or how do you prefer to be contacted?
Email, reach out to me directly.
And what's your email?
My email is james@falconwealthadvisors.com, and my number here is 913-326-1904.
Perfect.
And those are probably the best two ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for tuning in. And
Thanks for having me.
Yep, absolutely. And we hope you all have a great week.
Thank you.